We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 116a. And the previous summit, the Gemara said it's a machlokas tanoim, whether we're concerned for takala, are we concerned for a stumbling block in a situation where a person has truma that is tameh in his possession. The idea is that we'd be concerned that maybe the person will drink it when that's not allowed. It's only allowed to use it for other uses. And it's a machlokas Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai say tishafech hakol. Beis Shammai say the entire thing has to be poured out. You can't use it. We are concerned of a takala. Beis Hillel Omrim, but Beis Hillel say tasazilaf, you could use it for sprinkling the floor. Again, for the aroma, we are not concerned for takala, according to Beis Hillel. And the Brisa continues, Amar Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi says, Ani achriya, I can decide the answer to this question with essentially a compromise. But bayis tasazilaf, if it's in the house, so then you could do sprinkling. In that situation, when it's in the house, we're not concerned. You don't have to take it somewhere. It's already in the house, so we're not concerned of the takala for the stumbling block of visada. But if a person's out in the field, and in order to sprinkle it in the house, they'd have to bring it all the way to the house, and then there could be a situation where the person will accidentally consume it in an improper fashion. So then if it's in the field, tishafech hakol, then the entire thing has to be poured out. And the Gemara continues, there are those that say a different kind of compromise, so to speak. B'yoshen tasazilaf, that if it's older wine, so then use it for sprinkling. Uvechadash, but if it's newer wine, tishafech hakol, then it all has to be poured out. Again, the idea is that newer wine, essentially grape juice, is not used for zilaf, and so you would have to wait until it ages. But if you're going to wait, that's already a stumbling block. That's like the compromise position. In any case, the Brisa continues. Amrulo, they said back to him, Ein hachroa shlishas machras. Just because you have a third opinion, it doesn't mean we're going to go like that if it's not in line at all with any of the other opinions. We'll see Rashi on that in a moment. Rashi says, Tishafech hakol kula biyachad, the whole thing has to be poured out. Besada tishafech hakol. Then we said that in the field, it all has to be poured out. Again, that's the compromise position. Because by the time you get it to the house, then it's going to be a stumbling block already. In any case, they responded, Ein hachra shlishas machras means as follows. Tam atzmacha ta'omer, you're just giving your own opinion. V'lo kedivrei echad mehen, you're not following any of them. Sheshneim lo hizkiru bayis v'sada. The idea over here is that neither Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel mentioned the house or the field. Had they mentioned the house or a field, and then you would have said the halacha is different in a house than it is in a field, so then already that's a compromised position. But if they're not even mentioning that at all, and then you go ahead and you make this distinction, meaning Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, that's not considered a hachra shlishas that we would follow. And that's why Rashi now explains, V'hechi dami hachra, what would be considered a proper hachra? Kagoni havetani Beis Shammai bein nitzmis bebayis bein besada tishafech hakol. Let's say, for example, the Brisa would have said that Beis Shammai say, whether it's tamei in the house, whether it's tamei in the field, it has to be poured out. So they're mentioning both the house and the field. Then you can already say the halacha is like them in the house, the halacha is not like them in the field, or vice versa. Beis Hillel, let's say Beis Hillel would have said bein bebayis, bein besada, again, whether in the house, whether in the field. Point is they would have mentioned both. Tasazilaf, then you can use it for sprinkling. So then in such a situation, we could have said they have a hachra. But if you don't have that, you can't say that it's considered to be a hachra shlishis that we would follow. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Im amar lo atzel es shelcha v'chulu. Let's say again the case of a person who's saving the other person's honey by spilling out his wine. So if he says, I'm only going to save that honey if you're going to compensate me, if you'll pay me for the wine, so then the person does have to pay him for the wine. And the Gemara says, Amai, why does he have to pay him? Why can't he say, I was just joking with you? I didn't really want that I was going to pay you for the wine. And we have an example of this. Milo Tanya, didn't we learn in a Brisa? And let's say a person is running away from a prison. And so there's a crossing, a river crossing in front of him. Amar lo, and he says to the person with the boat, Tol dinar v'havi reini, take a dinar, which is much more than you would usually pay, and have me pass over this crossing. Ein lo elaschar. The halacha is that the person who's operating the boat, he can only get the normal wages. He can't actually take the full dinar. And so the Gemara says, what do we see? Alma we see. Amar le meshatani bach. He could say, I was essentially joking with you. Of course I wasn't really going to pay you a dinar just for this small job. And the same thing over here. Of course I'm not going to pay you. Of course I'm not actually going to pay you for the full amount of the wine in this situation when you said that I'm going to save the honey only if you pay me for the wine. Hachanami here also, le meshatani bach. You should be able to say that I was just joking, so to speak, with you, and I don't actually owe you the value of the wine. But the Gemara says, Halo dame ela l'seif. In actuality, our mission is more comparable to the end of that brisa. Don't ask a question from the beginning of that brisa, because the end of that brisa is actually in line with our Mishnah. The end of the brisa is as follows: Vim amar lo, if he says to him, Tol dinar zeh bischorcha v'havireni, take this dinar as your wages and cross me over. So then, nosin lo sechar mishalim. So then he does give him the full amount. So if he phrases it in that manner, so then in that situation he does have to pay the full dinar. The Gemara wants to clarify what exactly is the difference between what happened in the Seifa and the Reisha. Ma'ishna Reisha, Ma'ishna Seifa, what's the difference between the Reisha? In the Reisha he says, take a dinar and cross me over the river crossing. In the Seifa he says, take this dinar bischarcha, and then in that case he does have to pay him. What's the difference? Amar Rami Bar Chama says, the case over there is, B'tzayid hashola dagim min hayom. The case over there actually is that he's asking somebody who normally is a fisherman, he catches fish in the sea, meaning to say he's losing out on money by crossing this person over the river. And so therefore what he's really saying in that case was, he's saying, bischarcha, for that amount of wages which you will lose out on, I'm going to give you a dinar. V'amar le'af sedetani kavari bezuza. For this zuz, that's the amount that I'm making you lose out in terms of the fish. And so there he does have to pay him, because there it's not really a joke. He's not saying I'm going to pay you more than this is really worth, because the person really is losing out on that much. And that's similar to our Mishnah. In our Mishnah as well, the person is saying that I'm going to save your honey, but only if you pay me for the wine that I'm losing. And in that situation, when the person agrees to that, we don't say that he's joking, because again, that's clearly in lieu of the fact that he was losing out. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Shataf nar chamoro v'chamor chaveru, if the river is taking away his donkey and the donkey of his friend. And the Mishnah went on to say, Shalo yaf amana v'chulu, so his is only worth a mana, the other one was worth 200. And he says, I'm willing to save your donkey, but you should reimburse me for the value of my donkey. So again, in that situation, he gets reimbursed as well. This seems to be identical to the case of the honey and the wine, where if the person specifically states that you should reimburse me for the wine, then he has to reimburse him for the wine. Otherwise, he just gives him his regular wages. It seems to be an identical case twice. So the Gemara wants to know, why do we need both cases? And the Gemara says, with tzricha, we need both cases in the Mishnah. Diyashmin and Kamais, if we only had the first case of the honey and the wine, so hasam hu dechi perish yoiv le demekule, over there, if he explains that he wants to be, that he's only doing it if he gets reimbursed for the value of the wine, then he has to pay him for the entire thing. Mishum deviyadayim kapasit, because there he's actually actively with his hands spilling out his wine. He's losing his wine actively, so he should be reimbursed. But over here, Memela, where it just happens in Memela, essentially the river is taking away his donkey. So there, Nema Ein Lo Ela Scharo, there where he's not actively losing his donkey, so to speak, maybe he should only get paid the wages, even in a situation where he specifies he wants to get paid for the entire chamor. V'yashmin and Seif, and if we only had the end case, we only had the case of the chamor, so the other way around, Hachahu, in this case over here, Tivistama Ein Lo Ela Scharo, where if he doesn't specify, then we say he only gets wages, Misham de Memela, because again, the loss of the donkey is only Memela, it's not something that's happening actively biyadayim. Aval Hasan, but over there by the wine, the biyadayim, where it's happening with his hands, Ema afilu b'stama, then I might say even if there was no condition made, yoiv leid mekula, he has to pay for the entire thing. So tzricha, that's why it's necessary to teach this halacha in both cases. And the Gemara continues, Boy minei Rav Kahana me Rav. Rav Kahana asks Rav the following question. Yarad lahatza, let's say he goes down to save the other person's donkey. V'yola shalom elev, and then his own donkey actually gets out on its own. He ends up not losing out on his donkey, even though he said that I'm going to save your donkey on condition that you pay me for mine, but then he never lost his donkey. So what would be the halacha in that case? The condition was that he has to pay him the value of the donkey, and then maybe you say he gets that value of the donkey, plus he gets his own donkey back. So Amar Lei said back to him, Mishamaya Rechimu Allah, that's exactly true. It's from Shamayim, it's from the heavens that they had mercy on him. They specifically, so to speak, saved the donkey for him, but that still was the condition, and he still gets paid for his donkey. And the Gemara says, Kihad Rav Safra, it's like the situation with Rav Safra. Havekazal b'shayros, he was going with a caravan. Lavinu ahu ari, there was a certain lion that was following them the whole time. They were in danger as they were traveling. So what did they do? Kaleilah kashadar lechamar dechad minayo. So every night they would give the lion one of the donkeys. And then the lion would eat that donkey. Kimata Zimne, when it came the time for Rav Safra to give up his donkey, Kimata Zimne de Rav Safra, when the time of Rav Safra came, Shadar Lechamra, he sent his donkey to the lion, and so the lion didn't end up eating the donkey. And so the question was, now everyone was really compensating each other for the loss of their donkeys. Now are they going to compensate Rav Safra and he'll get back his lion? And that's what happened. Kadam Rav Safra, V'zachabe, Rav Safra was first, and he was Zocha, he took back his lion. And the Gemara says, Amar le Rav Achami Difti le Ravina. Rav Achami Difti said to Ravina when he heard this story, Lama le lamizki be. Why did he even have to be Zocha? On the contrary, we should say even if he didn't quickly take it back, he should still get his donkey back and he should be paid. Again, exactly the idea we're saying. Nehidachi afkare adaita da arye afkare. Granted that when he makes it ownerless, but that's only for the lion. Adaita de kuli almalo afkare. He didn't make it ownerless for everybody. He shouldn't even have to actually reacquire it. It should still be his. And the Gemara says to that, Amar le, he said back to him, Rav Safcha l'Ravcha the Milsa David. You're right, Rav Safra didn't have to do that, but he did it just to make sure, to ensure 100% that no one should protest that this is actually his. And the point over here is, it's the same story over here as it is with the donkeys that are being taken by the river. If it ends up that the donkey is saved in both of these cases, then it's going to be the owner's profit. He'll get his own donkey back, plus he will be paid. And the Gemara continues, Boy minei Rav, may Rav asked Rebbe the following question, Yarad lahatzil v'lo hitzil ma. What if he went to save the other person's donkey, but he was actually not successful? So he ended up losing his donkey, and he didn't save the other donkey. What's the halacha? Does he get reimbursed? Amar lo, he said to him, V'zu sheila, this really is a question. Ein lo ela scharo. All he gets in that situation is that he's only going to get his wages. He didn't actually do what he was supposed to do, so he gets the wages for the work of trying to save that donkey, but he doesn't actually get compensated for the loss of his donkey. And the Gemara continues, we have the following question, Hasocher Sapoel, if somebody hires a worker, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.